Breaking. Princess Leonor leaves Spain for a secret wedding meeting. Part 1. Spain woke up thinking it would be just another ordinary day. A day of routine headlines, quiet palace updates, and the usual calm surrounding Princess Leonor as she continued her carefully guided path toward the future throne. But then something happened that shattered that calm in an instant. A single detail, a subtle movement, a flight that wasn't scheduled, a security shift that didn't match the palace calendar. And suddenly, everything Spain thought it knew, flipped. The future queen had left the country. Quietly, discreetly, unexpectedly. And here's the part no one saw coming. She wasn't traveling for royal duties, military training, or diplomatic protocol. She was leaving Spain for something far more intimate. Something far more personal. A secret wedding meeting, one the palace didn't announce, didn't confirm, and didn't expect to be exposed. Yet here we are, and the question gripping the entire nation is simple: why now? Why secretly? And what exactly happened behind closed doors? To understand the shock, you must first understand the expectation Spain had for Leonor. For years, her life has been carefully choreographed. Every move planned, every appearance calculated, every step designed to prepare her not just for royalty, but for leadership. That's why this moment is so stunning. Leonor, the disciplined heir, the symbol of stability, the daughter who never breaks protocol, suddenly slipping out of the country without public explanation. This isn't just surprising, it's unprecedented. But here's where things get even more intriguing. This wasn't a random flight. This wasn't a casual trip. Everything about this departure was planned with a level of secrecy usually reserved for state crises, not wedding preparations. And yet, this trip wasn't about chaos, it was about love. And not just any love. A love strong enough, serious enough, and official enough to require a meeting that Spain wasn't supposed to know about. Let's break down what actually happened, because the details are not only fascinating, they're emotional, symbolic, and deeply revealing about Leonor's current life behind palace walls. At dawn, palace activity shifted. Vehicles that normally stay parked moved into formation. A small team of security officers swapped out with another team that usually isn't activated unless international travel is involved. One insider later mentioned that the palace schedule, which is normally predictable and steady, had 2 unexplained blanks. Those blanks lined up perfectly with flight data showing a private, royal-authorized departure from Madrid. And then, the most telling detail emerged: Leonor wasn't alone. This is the moment Spain understood something was different. Something serious. Something big enough to require confidentiality at the highest level. And that's when the whispers began. Was this related to her upcoming marriage? Was this a wedding negotiation? A meeting with the groom's family? A review of venues? Or was this the final confirmation, the moment the royal family would quietly seal the next chapter of Spain's monarchy? The answer, as we now know, is more emotional than political. More personal than official, because this wasn't a strategic meeting. It wasn't a formality. It was a moment Leonor had insisted on privately, a moment she wanted to experience away from cameras, away from headlines, away from expectations. A moment about love, not duty. But before we reveal the true purpose of that meeting, let's rewind. Because to appreciate the emotional weight of this secret trip, you must understand what Leonor has been carrying for the past year. In 2025, she's no longer the reserved teenager the world once saw. She's a young woman stepping into history. She's the future queen of Spain. And with that transformation came new pressure, the kind that doesn't trend on social media, the kind the public can't always see. With every step she takes toward her future marriage, the stakes rise. The scrutiny intensifies. And so does her desire to protect the parts of her life that still feel human, personal, and hers. That's why this trip matters. That's why it's emotional. Because Leonor didn't leave Spain as a royal figure today. She left Spain as a woman preparing for one of the most intimate transitions of her life, her marriage. And yet, the mystery deepens. Because even though this wedding meeting was personal, it wasn't private in the usual sense. There were powerful figures involved. Influential voices present. And the nature of the meeting itself has raised new questions that form our first curiosity loop. If this meeting was simply about love, why did it require diplomatic-level secrecy? Why did it involve a foreign location? Why was Queen Letizia so tense that morning? And why did King Felipe reportedly cancel 2 internal briefings without public explanation? Let's start with Letizia, because her reaction tells us more than any official statement ever could. When Leonor left the palace, Letizia didn't accompany her. She stood at the entrance, watching, visibly anxious but trying to hide it. Those close to her described her expression as deeply emotional, almost conflicted. And here's the emotional twist: Letizia has always been fiercely protective of her daughters, especially when it comes to their personal lives. The idea of Leonor stepping forward into wedding logistics, love commitments, and family integration is something Letizia supports, but also fears. Like any mother would. The second curiosity loop begins here. Was Letizia nervous because of who Leonor was going to meet? Or because of what Leonor might decide during this trip? That brings us to King Felipe. Unlike Letizia, Felipe's reaction was colder, more controlled, but unusually withdrawn. Palace staff noticed something rare: he stayed unusually quiet that morning. Not angry, not stressed, quiet. And in Felipe's world, quiet signals concern. One insider later whispered something revealing. The king knows this meeting changes everything. After this, things become official. Those words are the emotional center of today's story. Today wasn't just a secret trip. It was a threshold moment. A turning point. A step toward the next Spanish monarch's lifelong partner. So let's answer the biggest question. Why did Princess Leonor leave Spain for a secret wedding meeting? Because today, she met the groom's family privately. And not just for a courtesy introduction. This was the final approval meeting. A tradition rarely spoken about publicly. A tradition where 2 families, one royal, one private, discuss the emotional, cultural, and symbolic weight of a marriage that will shape a nation. And here's the plot twist the public wasn't prepared for. This meeting was necessary because the couple is blending 2 worlds that do not naturally fit together. One world is bound by centuries of protocol. The other is built on normalcy, family dinners, casual conversations, ordinary life. Bringing these 2 realities into one marriage required not just love, but alignment, understanding, compromise. And Leonor wanted to be there in person. She didn't want representatives. She didn't want palace intermediaries. She wanted to hear them directly. She wanted them to hear her directly. She wanted the families to meet in a way that felt real, not staged. But here's where the emotional depth intensifies. This meeting wasn't just about approval. It was about reassurance. Reassurance for Leonor's future family-in-law, who are stepping into a world they didn't choose. Reassurance for Leonor, who is stepping into a marriage that blends love with duty. Reassurance for Spain, that their future queen is making a thoughtful, human decision, not a forced royal arrangement. And as the meeting unfolded, something happened that even Leonor didn't expect. A moment that will become the emotional thread of today's entire story. A moment that left her shaken in the best possible way. A moment that proved her relationship is stronger, deeper, and more supportive than the country ever imagined. We will explore that moment in part 2, the moment that made the palace reconsider its stance, the moment that made Letizia emotional, the moment that left Leonor speechless.